Hi guys, before we dive into this week's episode, we just wanted to remind you that we are on Patreon, where you can support us from as little as £3. Is that correct?
£3 a month.
And you will get 2 bonus episodes a month, plus both the live shows that we did at the Stand and Glee in Glasgow, which were both very fun. You will also get first dibs on tickets for upcoming live shows as well.
That is
and
correct.
that is patreon.com/some laugh.
Correct.
Got
And
that right.
we
That was
also
the first
have
try.
some stand-up tickets on sale at the moment if you'd like to come see us live. We're all doing Edinburgh Festival this year and have all got tickets on sale for work in progress shows leading up to the Fringe. I will be in Glasgow doing a couple of shows in Van Winkle, wee room there, as well as Aberdeen, Newcastle with certain Mr. Steve Buchanan.
This guy.
And Edinburgh as well, if you can't wait till August to see me in Edinburgh. Where are you guys?
I am London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle with this guy over here, Jennings. And I'm in Edinburgh Fringe as well. All over the place.
I'm doing 3 work in progress shows in Glasgow, 1 in Edinburgh, 1 in Perth, 1 in London. Tickets in my link tree. And then, at the Fringe, I'd love to see some listeners there.
Same.
Bear in mind, if you do come and see us before August, there is no obligation. The shows will be good.
Work in progress.
Yeah, though might be bad.
That's how it works. Trial and error, baby.
Probably be good though.
Probably no worse than a 6 out of 10, I'd say.
No, but if there's nice audience members like the listeners, it'll probably be fun.
That's it. We've enjoyed meeting you at the live shows. We've been doing the podcast live shows, and we really would like to see you at the stand-up shows as well. So hopefully see you there. But aside from that, guys, enjoy today's episode.
Enjoy.
Welcome to the Some Laugh podcast.
It could be like, oh, that was some laugh, or there was just some laughs.
Some laughs.
Well, no promising all laugh.
No, there's going to be some.
It's some laugh.
I used to listen to Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast back in the day before he kind of went to WWE and stuff, and he used to have people complaining all the time about his breathing because that's all the comments, all the replies he would get, to the extent where he used to have to tell people, stop fucking writing in about my breathing.
You can't really help breathing, can you?
No, you've got to breathe, don't you?
I can't imagine Stone Cold would be too happy with that kind of criticism.
No,
It looks like a heavy breather though.
he does, doesn't he? You're not going to expect him to be a kind of quiet breather, are you?
Dainty breather.
No.
See, because you're a big wrestling fan, Rab, like, do you look at the Attitude Era with Stone Cold and all that and kind of go, that's for the casuals? Or do you look at that era and love it as well?
No, I love it. I don't think it's for the casuals at all. I think that was my era. That was the era I loved.
Who was your favourite? Was it Stone Cold?
At that time, my favourite was Stone Cold, without a doubt. Oh man, without a doubt. I was big into WCW at the time, actually. Like, I was big into Nitro and watching all that. And I remember what we used to do. Me and my mates, we used to we'd record them, right? We'd record Raw and we'd record Nitro, and then on the Saturday night, we'd get together in my mate's house and we'd watch Raw first as like a starter, and then the main course would be the 3-hour Nitro, right? We'd get a curry in and stuff like that. And it was just interesting because just as the weeks went by and the months went by, we were looking at each other going, maybe actually Raw should be the main course now, you know what I mean? So Nitro switched, so as you could actually see, it was like a physical...
Who was in who then? So Stone Cold would be...
Stone Cold was on Raw.
Right.
So
that
he was
became
in,
bigger.
He was in WWE, so...
I had a wee wrestling ring that had Raw on the side. Raw is War.
Raw is War, aye.
And I was like, hold on a minute, spell that backwards.
Beautiful, innit?
I was like, that's fucking class. How did they do that?
Oscar Wilde must have
Really
come up with
clever. Really
It was
clever.
the modern day Oscar Wilde, Shane McMahon.
Did you have any figures or just the ring?
Oh, I had just the ring. Wasn't it?
Flying it about like the Millennium Falcon.
it was peacetime in the Raw universe.
No, I had the figures. I had the Titantron. Have you ever
Oh,
heard?
nice.
Do you know what that is?
Aye,
Did
the
you
big
have
eye, and you press the button on it, and it would.
Aye.
What one did you have though? Because there was different
Envy
versions of the
looked like that,
Titantron.
Well, I had like a kind of knockoff one, so I had wee wrestlers with like wee magnetic strips in their feet. So when you put it on the magnetic strip in the Titantron, it would play the
It would
music,
activate the music.
but it would never play the right music for the right person. So you'd put
right,
Stone
right.
Cold on it, and it would go the Rock's music or whatever, and it
Aye,
was
aye,
like a an unlicensed music for The Rock. So it'd be like, can you smell? La, 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 and then it would just do a mad weird tune.
Aye.
That's
like when you would buy a second-hand N64 No Mercy game and somebody had went into the edit mode and swapped around everything, all the music, and all that. Kane was coming out with a suit on and all that.
I can't believe you had the Titantron, because I used to make like a wee stage that would come in on, but with videotapes. I used to have one as a videotape. I think it must have used. Can't mind whether I took them out the cover thing or no, but I used to just pile them up, and then that was like the wee stage,
That
and
was your stage.
go backstage and all that. And play a bit.
I had the knockoff Titantron, so I'm a step above you. mate.
Fucking hell, man.
I had a system, by the way, for matches. So I didn't see when I was a wee guy and I played with this. This wasn't running about Attitude Era time, right? This was when I was a wee. This was WWF time, Hulk Hogan and all that, right? And I used to have the wee Hasbro figures in the ring, but I would have a system so I wouldn't know who would win the matches. I had this it started off as a coin flip system for like moves and for pins,
Oh,
and
right.
then that moved on to a dice system, so it became quite a complicated system. So I'd put on these pay-per-views and I'd be like, God, I wonder who's going to win tonight. I'd be like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't know. It's great. Brilliant.
That's
I'll
quite
give me your own
inventive.
storyline.
Can't believe he did that, man.
It's quite inventive, isn't it? Like, I would never have. I would just fucking. It was The Rock for me that won every time. 'cause
You're
it was
just
my favourite.
the only jeopardy was whose music would play.
And also, you could do a thing where you could rub it really fast, and then it would play music just by the, I don't know, the friction or I don't know the science behind it. Fuck knows. And then I would be like, oh, let's see who's coming up now, and it would be like China, and I didn't have a China doll, so I'd go The Rock again. It's The Rock.
That's how a lot of
It's always
DJs
the-
started at that, rubbing their wee fucking wrestling men on the. I like how you said a doll as well. I didn't have a China doll. It's a proper calling action figures, dolls. So I pulled that hanging there.
That is
Do you know what I
bloody
wonder about
balls.
wrestling? Because now you get the kayfabe, which is obviously it's like the fake reality of the storyline into it. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And how I always wonder, because obviously when I grew up watching it in the Attitude Era, and it was like all you would get access to was them, like when you'd watch it, and like obviously when it'd be Raw, the wee Saturday morning highlights thing or whatever. Whereas now they've all got social media and stuff, the wrestlers, and then it's hard. The kayfabe's broken a lot easier. I feel like it must be hard to buy into like the whole reality of it, and then you know about the storylines. It's more meta. It feels.
I'm
like
I'm moaning about this all the time because you've got guys on Raw, right, and they'll be going, I'm a cowboy. I'm on my ranch. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna take you down. Right, all that stuff. The usual, the traditional stuff. You know what I mean? Come out with cowboy hats on, and then like half an hour later, they're on Twitch playing like a computer game. You know what I mean? We guys watching. You're like, that's gone now. You know what I mean? That's gone. It annoys me.
Yeah.
It annoys me.
I remember one of the big storylines was Kurt Angle. So I think was it Triple H threw his Olympic medals in the river or something like that.
Aye.
And I was like, how can they get away with that? That's bang out. And no realising that it's probably fake medals. Do you know what I mean? But
the one I always remember when there was a storyline about who ran over Stone Cold.
aye.
And I remember, I was in like primary school at the time, primary 6 or something like that. And one of our mates, he got called Haribo, right? He was Harry and he had like a bowl cut, so everybody called him Haribo. And he had a couple of big brothers who obviously were on the internet, like probably early days of forums and stuff. And they'd fun out, oh, it's Rikishi. So Haribo came in, he's like, it's Rikishi. And we're like, shut up, Haribo, fuck it, I said fuck Rikishi. And turned out to be Rikishi. And then he just gave him the credit for being right about that. But I suppose that was probably the first time when all those stuff started to leak out. on the
I mean,
internet,
you think about that, it's like now we'll talk about the storylines all way in advance and all that, and it's like, it's mad to think there was a time you just didn't know what was going to happen in the wrestling, you know what I mean? So much easier to invest in it. But, it's like, it is easy to invest in anyway, I've always found, you know what I mean?
Have you ever done it yourself, the old wrestling?
I did me and Greg Hemphill had a match in the Kelvin Hall. It was the last
called Kelvin Brawl or something?
Kelvin Brawl, it
Great
was,
name.
aye. And it was me and Grado against Greg Hemphill and Red Lightning, Rudo. And it was amazing. It was an amazing night. There was about, I don't know how many people were there, about 1,600 people there in the Kelvin Hall, and it was cracking. But it was like, I remember me and Greg, when me and Greg first got in together, and we did a couple of the things that we'd worked through, And then one of my strongest memories of it is I remember us kind of holding on to each other like in a clinch in the middle of us, and the two of us like to each other, I'm absolutely knackered, I can't do this, I can't breathe, just wait, don't move, I can't breathe. You're just totally, because by the time you do your entrances and all that, you know what I mean, you're knackered. Already. Grado always talks about that, how he's completely blown up, like blown out his arse by the time he's danced into the ring. Do you know what I mean?
Well, thanks for joining us anyway, Rab.
Cheers, Rab.
Good to be here.
Great to have you here.
So that wrestling was like your first big love, would you say? Or
My first big love. What was my first big love? When I think way back to when I was a wee guy, my earliest loves I think were V. The telly show V,
right.
which was about aliens that came from space, visitors that came from space to be humanity's friends.
Is that what the V stands for? Visitors?
Visitors. Right. V for visitors, right? And they came. I'm spoiler. We're not going to worry about spoilers, right? Since it's like about 40 years old, right? But they came to Earth, right? They came to Earth, and it was this mini series. It was on the telly, and I felt like everybody was watching it. Proper event TV stuff. And so these aliens came and they were helping Earth out with new technologies and all of that kind of stuff. And then on one of the episodes, the main hero guy goes up and he punches one of the aliens, and the alien's skin comes off, and it's a lizard underneath. Right, and that just blew my mind, man. That was one of my. And there was a woman called Diana in it who was the baddie alien, and I really fancied her. I remember as a wee guy really fancying her. So that was
How
was
much
one of my.
did she look like an alien? How much of an how
not,
human was she?
Oh, it's very human.
Right.
Extremely human, but you could unhinge her jaw completely and swallow whole rats. Right. Whole rats could go down.
And it's something about that you thought, aye, that's class.
That's what I'm into.
So that was your first thing. When did you start getting into comedy then?
When I was a wee, my dad was huge into comedy. My dad was like a big comedy fan, so there was always comedy on in the house. And the earliest stuff I remember is my dad loved Spike Milligan, so there was always, he loved Q. So Q is maybe the first sketch show that I can remember watching, which is just amazing. And
did you only watch shows that were just one letter?
Aye, Q. I hadn't thought about that actually. But I loved Q, and I loved the Two Ronnies. Two Ronnies was always on in my house, and I loved the Two Ronnies. Loved Fry and Laurie as I was getting older. So I was always big into sketch shows. Always loved sketch shows. Know what I mean?
Aye, and do you think that ended up how? Because how did you and Ian end up becoming like a partnership in terms of that? Because obviously, like Fry and Laurie was that kind of thing like, oh well, it's the two guys doing it. Double acts were a bigger thing back in the day. It feels like, like, as you say, like the Two Ronnies and fucking Morecambe and Wise and that sort of stuff. It's not as much. You don't get a lot of
Scotch and Rye.
You don't get a lot of double acts on the circuit, really, do you? Know? But that's so. Is how did you and Ian end up kind of partnering up?
I was at school. When I was at school, I knew a load of I knew some people that knew Ian. Ian was at another school, wasn't he? The same school as me, but they kind of knew him, and they were like, "You'd get along with this guy." And then I joined this youth theatre group that was in our local area. It was called Toonspeak, and I went along because a lot of my mates went to it and stuff, and I kind of met Ian there. Kind of, but he was older. Ian was like a couple of years older, year or two older, and that's like massive when you're a wee guy, like a year or two older. Do you know what I mean? So he was doing his thing. I kind of met him a couple of times. We got on all right, and then we properly met when we had to write a pantomime for the youth theatre. So we kind of properly met at that time. Did a bit of writing together. Then we went our separate ways, and then a wee bit later, he get back in touch with me, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to try and do a wee bit of writing? We'll write something together." So we started doing a wee bit of writing. So it was just kind of like that. It was
what
just,
age are you at that point?
When I went to that theatre group, I was like 15, 16 or something. And then when we got together to try a wee bit of writing together, we were like 18, 19.
Right.
And then we got our first commission at the BBC when we were 19.
That's crazy.
That's young.
Aye, so
what was that for, like, off the ball or something?
No, it was... So Ian went for an audition, I think. He auditioned for something, right? And he didn't get the part, but he'd done a wee monologue thing, and they'd went... This guy called Neil Clark, who was a script editor at the BBC at the time. He went, "What is that you're performing now?" And he says, "Oh, hang me and my mate wrote." And he was like, "Oh, you should come in and have a meeting with us." So we went in, and he kind of encouraged us to write something, and then we kind of just wrote a kind of half-hour thing. It was Dodgy Geezers, it was called, which is a terrible name. It was not a good script either. And that it get commissioned, it get broadcast as a radio thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then we were on to just writing radio stuff. We wrote for a thing called Velvet Cabaret on Radio Scotland, which ran for years and then became a telly programme as well. But we were just like, it was mad. It was just, but it was everything. It was everything I'd always wanted to do. So I kind of I dropped out of uni and all that. And
Right.
I said, I'm just going to focus on writing, which was, stupid.
What were you
bold
doing?
move.
What were you doing at uni?
Film and TV
Right.
at Glasgow Uni.
So it was always something like that you wanted to
It was
do.
always something like that I wanted to do. It was always that kind of area.
Aye. We were doing the job that you would have wanted when you had graduated, so I suppose it probably was the right.
Aye, but it was just, you're just skint for years though, writing. Do you know what I mean? You're skint for years and years and years. So, but it was still brilliant, like getting commissions and getting your first credit on the telly. I'm always saying that to people nowadays as well. It's I don't think people realise how I think people forget quite quick how amazing it is when you get your first credit on the telly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think everybody gets, if you've been doing it for a while, we get a bit blasé about it. You know what I mean? But it's I really strongly remember the first time my name came up at the end of a programme. Even for the point of view of my family, who were kind of this is good, he's doing the writing, but it becomes a real thing. The minute you're fucking name's on the telly. And I think it's I think people forget that. It's why I think it's always good that new people are always encouraged to come in. People need to be encouraged to come in and get their first credit actually on a telly. I think is important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're always good at that though. You're good at championing younger people and getting them involved in stuff like that. And I think it's a credit to you that you. And like you're saying, you just hard to get your first credit and stuff. So it's good that you do that.
Cheers, man. And it's purely because of that. Purely because I remember, you feel like you're kidding on a wee bit. See, when you're a writer, it's always a thing. I think it's a thing you're always trying to shake. It's I feel like this isn't a proper job I'm doing here. I'm not doing proper work. I think particularly if you're fair working class background, and my dad and my uncle, my brother-in-law were all roofers, all worked up the roofs. You know what I mean? And then I'm kind of sitting, in the house, drinking tea and eating biscuits and writing. You know what I mean? And you always feel like I'm kidding myself on a wee bit here. So that credit's it's important. You know what I mean? Because it becomes, then it feels like a real thing. You know what I mean?
So what was your first TV credit? Did you say?
My first telly credit would have been. My first telly credit was a show called Haywire. It was called, which was a BBC sketch show, and it was very bad. It was very bad, but it was still good getting that credit.
Do you remember what your first sketch was?
Oh God, I can't remember what we wrote for that.
Who was in it?
But it wasn't anything good.
Sure, it was alright.
That stand-up guy. Oh man, his name's went out of my head. But he's a comedian. Phil.
Okay.
Jupiters.
No, neither K nor Jupiters.
Phil.
Is he American? Phil Nickel.
Nickel.
He was in it. He was really good. He was really funny, you know what I mean? But the show was just bad, man. And I remember going along to the recording it, and the recording was, I don't want to trash an old show, but I definitely can because it was bad. And Stu Who was on before it doing warm-up and all that, and it was and the set had been designed with these big revolving set, carry on just unnecessary stuff. And it took ages to get things prepped, and so I think Stu Who had 10 minutes of material to warm up with, but ended up having to do 2 hours. Do you know what I mean?
It's a tough gig, man.
You know what I mean? So it's rough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was right there going, right, who wears trainers? Anybody? Really desperately. Anybody? You know what I mean?
And so you and Ian ended up writing a lot for Tune the Fat and stuff like that.
We did. We started on series 2 of Tune the Fat. We went on to that. So we'd been doing a lot of stuff at the BBC. But we knew a lot of the kind of same guys, like Rab Christie and Noddy Davison, who are up at the comedy unit now. They were kind of writing on the same stuff as us. There was a lot of kind of crossover, way Tune the Fat, and then we get asked on this second series of that. And I remember the first time I saw kind of Greg for the first time. Me and Greg are really good mates now. But the first time I saw him, we were in the writers' room getting ready for Ford and Greg to turn up, and they turned up on these mopeds. Like it was like fucking matching mopeds they turned up on, you know what I mean? And came kind of swanning in or at like off of kind of the energy of guys that have been on the telly, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But it was, you know, it was just an amazing time that though, because during the fact the first series had went well and I'd really liked it, you know what I mean? So it was like good to get asked onto it, but that was kind of the second series. It was just about to kind of blow up. I think the second series was when it really kind of blew up. So it was good to. I remember sitting in an Indian restaurant one night, and I was eating with my ex, and I heard there's people talking at our table, and I heard them hitting out with lines.
The same pattern that you
that
wrote.
we'd written. I was like, and it was the first time I'd ever experienced that, like somebody in the wild. Doing that, so
Do you mind what the line was?
nah, I can't remember.
Aye.
People come up to me in the street and they say things to me like "fake sketches," and I'm like, "What?" Do you know what I mean? They'll say something to me, and I'm like, "You fucking saying?" You cheat?
Although it's funny because actually that reminds me of when last time I think I seen you was when we'd been out after that. There was that BBC meeting thing, and we went out to Radisson Red, and we're on the lift. And then you shout 11, which was the fucking. That was such a
That
great
was
moment.
perfect because there was about 100 people in that lift. I've never seen so many people in a lift. There's like a full audience for that gag.
No, because I do it or like when I'm in. See when me and my wife are out with the Waynes, right? Say we're in St Enoch's or something, we're in the lift. I always go like that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Can't stop myself. I'm going to do it.
Do you ever do it then? People are just like, what the fuck's he talking about?
Always threaten it, but don't often do it. I need a drink in me to do it.
That is like a huge viral sketch that transcends even like the English language. I always see pure people from Bulgaria going, "This is my favourite sketch" and all that. And you're like, how do they, maybe because their accent they can identify with it or whatever.
Aye, but it's gone now. This is the thing. The funny thing about that sketch, like you know, and I'd thought this all along. I thought this has got a shelf life. This sketch, so obviously exploded and went big. But there's going to come a time when it's like people are going to watch it and they're going to go, "Why does that thing not understand what they're saying? Why does that?" And I think we're there already. I think voice recognition technology is so good now that actually that sketch just doesn't work. If you were to put that sketch in somewhere now, they'd be like, "That's not a thing anymore."
Right.
So it's actually. I think its viral day is over.
That's
You know what I mean?
interesting, I
think it's gone.
But you still see it pop up on BBC social media, and it still does
They're always
amazingly.
pumping out in there. The BBC always trotting that one.
You don't get
Desperate for the clicks.
you don't get any royalties for that.
A
do you?
quid a view. I get a quid for every view. So I'm like, give me 200 million.
It's not bad, is it? I was in Ireland like last year, and I was speaking to these two guys, and they're like, "Oh, you're from Scotland? Love Scotland, love Scottish comedy. Lemmy's show is the best show I've ever seen. 11! Aye, Lemmy's great. And maybe that 11 sketch.
We definitely get a bit of crossover. Like I get sometimes I get people quoting Lemmy sketches to me, you know that. I'm like, it's not me. I was Lemmy that did that. You know what I mean?
It is weird too because they were both on at a really similar time.
Can you believe that, by the way? That there was three. There was like Tank Commander, there was Lemmy's show, and there was us all in at the one time.
That's right,
It's
aye.
like, you don't get that nowadays.
Especially with Burnistoun and Lemmy's show, a sketch show.
Aye.
I mean, Gary Tank Commander, is that just a sitcom or what? But,
Yeah.
but aye, it's crazy that now there's no sketch shows, really, apart from
Yeah,
the
apart
New Year
from
show.
New Year.
Get half an hour a year.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, and it's like sketch shows are the most important thing. Like there should be a sketch show, and you should be able to turn on the BBC, right? I'm not just talking about Scotland, but BBC Two, right across all the BBC. You should be able to turn on and know there's a sketch show in like every week of the year. Should be, because it's like how are writers meant to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody,
you'll
you
learn.
you get people in the industry are talking about Succession's brilliant and all that, and you're like, you're going, that's a sketch show, that's a sketch writer that wrote that. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's how they get in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know, and that's
100%.
it's like because that it felt like there was always that trajectory of like you're kind of talking about. It's like you started in radio, like
Yep.
doing sketches, and then you maybe even do like a longer sitcom on the radio, and then you or you just go to sketches on telly, and then you build up to like
Aye.
a longer piece, and it just feels like that whole sort of infrastructure or that path just isn't it? It's not, it is there, but not to the same extent as
Aye.
it was that clear thing. Whereas now you can kind of, I guess there's a lot more opportunities as well online and things, but it doesn't seem as clear a path. It's like there's so many different ways.
No, it's like panel shows is the thing, you know what I mean? Panel shows, they're just cheaper to produce and, you know, they're dependable, they're reliable because you get good stand-ups on it. You know the good stand-ups are going to be funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you've not got that thing of half your show is shite. You know what I mean? Which you get with a sketch show, that's it. It's like, and that's the funny thing about a sketch show is like you can't really even measure them by the normal, you know, normal standards of telly because you've got to, there has to be an acceptance that half your show is maybe going to be, you know, not good.
But I think
And we come off quite well. Burnistoun, actually, it's like people kind of go, Burnistoun was, I love Burnistoun now. And I was like, see if you were to watch them all, right? All the episodes, you would find that you don't love it as much as you think you do. You know what I mean? because you know, retrospect is very good to sketch shows, I think, because the good ones people remember, and the terrible ones sink away.
But also I've been like that and I've watched a sketch show back and then maybe ones that I didn't laugh at as much before I've went, oh, that's actually funny, and you kind of see wee things that you never saw before. So I think they get a bad press of, oh, it's hit or miss, but I think if you go back and watch it, you do enjoy it more.
It depends on your mood, but it's also how they're constructed as well. Because I remember the first series of Burnistoun, like the first episode is pretty strong, I would say, by sketch show standards. You know what I mean? But that's deliberate because you know what sketches are there, and you stack up all your good ones up the front. You hit episode 5 in a sketch show series, you know what I mean, and it's full of all the shite. It's everything that's died, you know what I mean. It's like episode 5 is the graveyard, and then you get a strong episode 6, you know what I mean,
Get that recommission.
to get it. That's the strategy, you know what I mean. And so yeah, it's just the way they're structured. And Burnistoun was a funny one because we had that first series, and then the second series was much odder, I would say, than the first one. A lot of weirder sketches, and then the third one is probably the most mainstream one, the most kind of conventionally mainstream one.
Was that a deliberate choice?
I would say so. I was definitely a course correct for the second series, because the second series I think we kind of probably lost a lot of people by just kind of, we were like, oh, we got a second series, we can indulge ourselves a wee bit more and stuff that's a wee bit more to your taste, maybe. Because that's the weird thing about sketch shows as well, because they're very you're always, I think people don't realise as well that you're always kind of following a brief to an extent. It's very rarely, I think Limmy's show actually is a good example. I think Limmy's show is very much him, his thing, you know what I mean, and they let him do his thing, which is why it feels so unique, you know what I mean, and so uniquely him. Whereas I think most sketch shows, you don't get that carte blanche to kind of do what you want, you know what I mean? You don't really get it. You're always trying to appeal to a wide audience. Like with the New Year show, you're trying to appeal to an insanely wide audience, really, when you're thinking about it, because
Granny's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Granny's,
your
kids.
grannies, Waynes, all through the age range. So there's a limit to what you can do. There's a certain type of thing that you need to do, and it's that thing. You're never, I suppose, you're never really truly yourself, or a sketch show never is really truly to your taste. People talk about Monty Python or like Spike Milligan's Q. I think they were very specific. Again, I think it was a wee bit of, we gave them the freedom to do the kind of show they want.
Right.
And I think that's when you get kind of historic sketch things, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it just doesn't happen. You don't get the opportunity to do that kind of thing. If somebody was to say to us tomorrow, if BBC Scotland were to say to us tomorrow, right, yous for, we want you to do a sketch show, right?
I think
You
it
can
could be
do
pretty
what
good.
the day what you want. It says we're not going to give you any notes. No notes. You just do what you want. Just shoot what you want. We'll put it out. It would be probably unrecognisable for any sketch show that anybody's ever seen, because it would be, people don't have that freedom, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is fine. Nobody would watch it.
But
But,
also be like,
but some people, the people who did watch it would probably love it. You know what I mean?
but with sketch shows, do you think there has to be that sort of one sort of voice? Because if we done that, us four, we've all got different maybe sense of humours and we've got similar stuff as well, but we've also got different things that we find funny. We used to have a sketch show,
done it with
Scram.
live show,
We done it with 5 different performers, and we just found everyone had their own wee thing that they wanted to do. And I don't think it really gelled that much.
Aye.
So do you think it's important to have someone that you have the same sense of humour as, and try and channel that?
I don't think you need that. I really don't. I mean, I kind of love, I miss chaos on telly. You know what I mean? Like I miss chaos, and I think the trouble nowadays a wee bit is that everything feels very polished. There's always like an attempt to polish everything too much. I was kind of when the new BBC Scotland channel started, I was quite excited because I thought maybe they'll go, God, we've only got 10 grand to make this show. You know what I mean? We'll just kind of let them do what they want and see what they come up with. But it's kind of like that still. I think it's still trying to make, low budget things almost like resemble the higher budget mainstream things, which I don't,
Yeah. Everyone's always terrified of people tuning out as well.
Yeah.
Because audiences are dwindling across the board. It's like they're desperately grabbing to,
Aye,
whereas there's no artistic freedom in that. Or it just makes it more challenging, doesn't it? So,
Aye.
if you're fearing failure, it's not a good place to be creatively, I don't think.
No.
How similar are you and Ian's senses of humour? Because I would just imagine that they're very similar, but maybe that's not the case.
No, I think they are similar. I think they're very similar. We both like kind of pattern and stuff. Maybe I tend towards a wee bit weirder stuff. Maybe, possibly, but not by much. You know what I mean? And I think when we work together, it's, we kind of know each other. I think when you're writing with somebody, you need to be a fan of what they do as well. You know what I mean? So like when we're writing the sitcom, for example, it's a very easy process writing the sitcom because we kind of, you can go, you write this then and I'll write this and then we'll swap out and then I'll redraft that and then it's very relaxed and stuff. But I think it's just because when you like what each other does, you know what I mean? If I was to go into a coma, right, which I could at any time, right?
It'd be good for the numbers of the pod, if nothing else.
If I went into a coma, then and he had to write it all himself, I'd be fine with that.
Do you think it would be similar to what you would write together?
Aye, probably, aye. You know what I mean? I were quite good at mimicking each other's style of thing as well, you know what I mean?
Well, you would both probably agree in that scenario that you need to write you out or at least put you in a coma in the sitcom.
Aye. I suppose the difficulty would be, would they still split the money with me? If I was in a coma, I suppose they'd look at all my wins and he'd feel bad and he'd have to do it.
I'm keen to talk about the sitcom in a wee bit, but I was wanting to ask you just because obviously, as you say, so you and Ian were writers on Tune the Fat. How did it come to be that you ended up getting Burnistoun? And like, did you at that time did you always have those ambitions to kind of front your own thing the way that Greg and Ford did, or did you see yourselves that way, or how did it all come about?
We came out of all that kind of sketch writing, and then we got an opportunity after Iain Angus, who was the commissioner at the time, and who was like a really, a great champion for scripted comedy. Really, he was a guy commissioned. Video guiding after me as well, me and Ryan, a video game show, and he did with that go, you've got carte blanche, do what you want. That was an example of that kind of show. In fact, I remember you and Angus saying to me, if you can imagine a commissioner saying this to you, he says, see when I watch this, see if I understand any of it, then you've got it wrong. You imagine that? It's incomprehensible. Anybody saying that?
That's what any English commissioner would probably say.
True. So, I mean, he was always kind of good to us, I would say. And I remember after Chewing the Fat and all that had finished, he said to us, do you want to try a sketch thing? And we wrote it up. I'm trying to remember the timeline here because we wrote a sitcom called Legit, which Jordan Young was in and Steve McNichol were in, and we wanted to be in that originally. But the reason we wanted to be in it, and the reason why when we did the sketch thing we says we want to be in this as well, was it was purely financial. Like 100% for both of us was purely financial because we were like
matching mopeds
together. Well, that's it. It's just we just weren't making the money we needed to make as parents, and as we needed to make better money, and the only way to do it was to perform in it as well.
Had you acted much?
No. Before, I mean, I'm trying to think here. Again, I'm trying to get my timeline in order. But no, I hadn't done any acting really. In terms of, if you call it proper acting and no presenting, then Burnistoun was my first thing, you know what I mean? And so, it started off, I think it was a radio thing, and then it got we did something Burnistoun for radio, and then it moved to telly, and then we were in it, and then we were kind of up and running. But it was never the. I mean, I remember having the conversation, with people at the time, and thinking about my wee lassie, like, that really want to go on the telly, and people, you know what I mean, people recognising, because I knew I was mates with people like Frankie and people like Greg, and I knew what it was like. You know what I mean? I'd been out for a coffee with Frankie Boyle on many occasions and thought to myself, God, this looks fucking murder.
Just people constantly going up to him.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But then I was like, I want the money.
You need to be able to afford
I
a
want
coffee.
the money, exactly. I want the money.
Was there any part of you that was like, I kind of want the recognition as well? Or did it just look like a pain in the arse?
No, there wasn't any part of me that wanted the recognition.
Right.
But no, I would say if a few weeks go by and nobody's recognised me, I'm like, I need to go into Socky Hall Street on a Saturday night. You know what I mean? I need to shout 11 in a lift somewhere. No, but it's true, and that's a terrible thing. It's like, I think you need to recognise that in yourself a wee bit. You know what I mean? It's like you do get used to that kind of thing, and you get used to people smiling when they see you. And I was like, a wee guy from North Glasgow. Fucking nobody smiled when they saw me, you know what I mean? Nobody smiled at each other. And then suddenly you'd get people going, they'd see you and they'd go, like that when they saw you, and you're like, that's a nice feeling, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's certainly not something new. It looked murder at the start, like that looks terrible, but no. I remember one time I used to go to the horse racing on occasion at Hamilton Racecourse. Just because, not really because I'm into horse racing, but just it was like a good night out. See, you know what I mean? It's like one of the good nights out. You know what I mean? Proper working class good night out, man. Go and get a wee drink and that, put a line on that. And I remember one time going, and this is after Burnistoun being on the telly, and I was like, I can't ever come to the horse racing again. You know what I mean? Because I think it was just almost like that perfect mixture of like booze and people for kind of up my bit and stuff, and you know what I mean? It was just like, this is mental, but it's, it's nice, you know what I mean?
Aye. And so when you said you wanted to front that and legit that you were talking about, would that be quite a weird conversation with a commissioner? Because I think nowadays, they want performer writers.
It's different, aye.
And now, back then, maybe it would have been, they want that separate. Were they a bit hesitant?
Back then, they didn't even want writers to meet actors. It was like, I remember when we were doing Velvet Soup, which was a telly sketch show, and you had the performers and you had the writers, and I remember us suggesting maybe we could get together with the writers and the writers together with the performers, and they could like read the stuff and all that, and we could maybe tweak stuff and all that, you know what I mean? And the producers were like, no, we'd rather know. Wow. Have you? You know, it was a totally different.
Kind of mental, isn't it, when you consider how collaborative it actually is?
Yeah.
Seems so counterproductive.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't it?
I don't know what the idea was with that. I don't know why, but it was like that. You know, I mean, it was quite often they wanted to keep everything in its own. You know, I don't know why that would be. You know what I mean? Maybe just a power thing. Maybe just like you don't want the creative people getting together and having their own ideas about stuff.
Are we going to star in this sketch show we're all writing tomorrow?
Aye, 100%.
For us?
Aye, well, the 4 years would need to be in it.
Aye, of course.
I'd like the money.
Yeah, I'd love the money.
Yeah.
Did you? So was it difficult to convince them to let you be in Burnistoun, or was it?
No, I think they were fine with doing that. Why were they so? I think it was because when we'd written the sitcom, and so clearly written parts for ourselves in it, and then they kind of went, nah. I think it was almost like, we'll give you this one, radio sketch show, you know what I mean? We'll give you a shot with this one. And they were right not to let us do the sitcom. Jordan and Steve did a great job. But I think that was why they let us do it, And then it just, it didn't just work, because I think the thing about sketch writers is you're kind of always performing them with each other anyway, you know what I mean? You're reading the sketches to each other and you're kind of performing them in the room, and then you're sending them in and hoping that they turn out all right. And sometimes you get lucky and you get a chew in the fat where you would write the sketches up and date and send them in, and they'd be better on the other end when they're on the telly, you know what I mean? But sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it's, you send your sketches in and it's like, oh, they've killed it. You know what I mean? It's a way.
And it was like there was a laugh track and stuff. Did you want that? Did you? Was that something you pushed for, or were you hesitant with that?
I've always liked a laugh track. I've got no all my favourite shows have a laugh track. I think, I don't know, it's maybe that thing of watching the stuff my dad liked and liking the kind of old stuff that sometimes when I hear a comedy thing and it doesn't have a laugh track, I have a weird, particularly if it's a sketch show, I have a weird kind of,
Aye.
I find it hard to get into. It just depends, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, people always think it's canned laughter. Because I remember going along to one of the screenings, I think it was maybe the third series at the Odeon, and what is it, that one, what's that one called?
The Key.
Springfield Key or whatever.
Oh, aye.
And going along, and it's like, so they're getting real laughs for the audience there, I guess. It's just that, but then people just say canned laughter, don't they, on, like, if they see any laugh track on the telly, but you know, it's like a real audience reaction that they're getting into it.
That's what you're saying. You're like, it's no canned, it's real. That's
Yeah,
real
yeah.
people
Don't
laughing at it.
Aye.
Of course it is. Half the audience is the crew and the cast. But it is real. It is kind of real. It's all fucking work, man. It's like you're wrestling. It's all kid on, man.
How did you, like, because you're talking about obviously, like, when people start recognising and stuff, what was it like to have your work recognised, and when, like, Burnistoun becomes as big as it was and gets that, like, its kind of cult following, and like the joke, like, because like you see people at football games with Jolly Boy John and all this kind of stuff, like
people with tattoos and all that.
How did you find all that?
It's
And
amazing.
did it put any
Like,
pressure actually to like to keep doing certain characters, or like you go in a certain direction with it?
the weirdest thing we found was that people thought you made every episode that week. So you'd meet people in the street and they'd go, "Oh, you need to bring him back next week." You know what I mean? You're like, "Mate, we shot this months ago. What are you talking about? We've already killed him off, that character." So you would get, I was in, because people would always, Glasgow, you know what I mean? People are always happy to share their opinions with you as well. They'd be like, "See Ray 2, see Ray character, get rid of him. They do my head in. Get rid of Ray ones." And somebody else be like, "I love them, they're my favourites, bring them back," and all that. And so you'd have to, you'd be taking all that stuff on. And you're kind of listening to people, what they want as well and what they like. You get an idea. You can hear by what people shout at you in the street what ones they like, you know what I mean? And so you're always tempted to kind of bring they ones back. But then I think a lot of it comes down to just like the ones that me and Ian like performing as well, you know what I mean? It's like, because it's got to be, you've got to be enjoying it. It's got to be for an enjoyment. And it's proper, like with Burnistoun, it was, I know it's that old cliche, but like, it's like doing a thing with your pals, you know what I mean? It was like, we were all pals. The director was our pal, you know what I mean? The crew were all brilliant. There was just no downside. It was just you were getting up, and you get up in the morning and go, "I need to go out and film a day, and I need to film." And it was crazy, like sometimes like 6 sketches in a day, you know what I mean? But you'd be like, "This is magic, man. I dress up as this mad guy and then do this," and then, you know what I mean? And then dress up as this and do that. It was like, it's an amazing job. And that's what I'm saying. It's like there should be more sketch shows so more people get that experience of feeling like, me and Greg talk about it all the time, about how it feels like you're in it's just like a big toy set you're playing with. You turn up, you have some mad sketch idea, some crazy thing, you turn up and they've built it and all that. Like, guys have made it. And, you know what I mean? And, somebody comes and puts the costume on you, and it's just crazy stuff.
That's brilliant. And you're talking about like enjoying doing certain characters and stuff like that, and obviously you and Ian have done you've done the Uncle thing live. You've been doing Biscuity Boyle recently as well, is that right?
Doing work in progress shows in so I did 2 shows at the weekend there on Friday and Saturday, and they went really well, which is good, which is a relief, because I'm just kind of doing an hour. I've never do things properly. I know it's like you do it properly. You just go and like work up material and do 10 minutes here and do 20. Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's kind of how you do it, but I just kind of sat and wrote an hour and then prayed that it was all right. Do you know what I mean? And obviously some it wasn't, and I'll tweak bits, but it's kind of went well. I quite enjoy, as I'm getting older, I quite enjoy doing the live stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
I don't know why that is, but
Because if you went for being basically Burnistoun being your first kind of performing thing or acting thing, to then like doing it live, was that your so seeing you started doing like the live stuff off of the back of all that, was that your first experience of it? Because it must be, because we kind of started basically stand ups, and then like I suppose we feel like, I certainly feel like my comfort zone as well when I'm doing sketches, acting stuff and all that. But if you went for doing that to the live stuff, it must be interesting. And how did you find the difference between like doing it in front of a live audience versus no?
I mean, I think when you're doing something like Burnistoun live, right? You're among. There's no pressure. Like they're wanting to see the sketches that already know work, and they've paid to come and see yous. And there's there's just no negative to it. It's not like they're going to sit there and go, actually, a sketch is shite now. They're shite. They're invested already, and then it's like a friendly room that want to see you do well and want to have a good night. They're usually steaming as well, our audience. So it was the same with these Biscuity Boyle live shows they're doing at the weekend. I was going, I wonder if the audience will be completely wrecked again. They were. But so I've always felt I've got a funny thing with live stuff, which is that I don't get nervous at all. Like, don't get nervous, and I don't get any buzz after it either.
Right.
So a lot of stand-ups kind of say to me, and I'm absolutely not a stand-up, but a lot of stand-ups say to me, after the show, I'm like, I can't go home, or I can't, you know what I mean? And I just don't feel anything like that.
Really?
You need to see your doctor or something.
I don't feel any nerves on the way in.
Aye.
And then I go and do it, and then when I come off, it's just...
Really?
So when I'm doing the Biscuity Boyle shows at the weekend, for example, the way I've got it working is the audience all come in around about 7 o'clock, and then I come and I go into Blackfriars and I pull my wig on and I go down the stairs and I go straight on the stage and I do the show, and then I walk off the stage at 9, and then I go up the stairs, and then I'm on the train at 9:20 on my way home, and I don't feel anything.
That's like how they fake it on like stand-up specials. Like they've just walked in off the street, but
Yeah, but it's
for real.
It's genuinely that, and I think I've always kind of wondered to myself why that is, why I feel like that. Because I remember years ago being at the stand, and I remember seeing Frankie backstage at the stand before, and there was a load of stand-ups in the back, and Frankie Boyle was sitting on the couch, and there was stand-ups and they were pacing about, right? And they were drinking their beer like that kind of way of drinking their beer. Like that. And running stuff and all that, and kind of going like that, and some like kind of like that with their eyes shut and all that. Some wearing sunglasses in the back. and Frankie would just be sitting like that. Super chilled like that, you know what I mean? And I remember thinking to myself, you want to be that guy. See that guy before the show, you want to be that guy. So I kind of, maybe that's maybe part of it, but I think also a part of it is that I'm a writer and I'm no a stand-up and I'm no an actor and I'm no, so maybe I have a kind of analytical approach to it a wee bit. I kind of go, wrote my material, seems to be working all right, I'll go in, I'll do it, and when I come off I'm just kind of thinking about, right, so that bit didn't work, so I'm already kind of thinking about, so I'm never really going,
It's the experiment.
I don't know,
of
how do you use, what is it like for yous?
It's different, I suppose. Every gig's different. Like, depends on the gig. If it's a solo show, you might be more nervous than a club gig or whatever. And if it's a solo show, you're maybe like, I need to do this bit here, this bit there. So you're trying to think about just getting it right in the right order.
Yeah, I'm always worried about forgetting it.
Yeah, that's probably
Obsessively writing set list.
my main worry is forgetting
Fidgeting.
bits.
Aye.
Yeah.
But after it, you have a good show, right? It goes well. Or you's
Oh, aye,
up
well,
there.
There's a if it's like a big important show and it goes really well, then there's a buzz and you're like adrenaline. You're like, that was class. I loved that.
yeah. No, adrenaline for sure. Because
adrenaline,
I'm the same. I've always thought it's weird because I don't get nervous before, and I think like even in my first gig, that was the only concern I had was I hope I remember all this stuff that I'm wanting to say. But I'm pretty chill before gigs, and that doesn't I've never really get nervous as such. But after it, man, especially if it's a good gig, like there is an adrenaline buzz, and like sometimes to the point where like you want to kind of just go after it or whatever, just because coming down off that high, and then sometimes you're just in the motor like 10 minutes after like, you're singing, and you're just like, like fucking you've been up here, and then you're just like fucking back with the radio on or whatever. It's a bit like a downer, but no, I definitely get a good buzz out of it. But I think particularly when we're working up material, it's like, see if there's like you're doing a set and you chuck in one new joke. And if that doesn't go down well, that's all you're thinking about. The rest of the set could have been great, and everyone's like, oh, that was great. And you're like, no, I fucked up that one thing, and it was the only reason I was doing this gig was to try it or something. So you're always just, if you've got something in particular that you're working on, that's really what you focus on. But it's also just so emotive as well, isn't it? Because it's like, it's either amazing or shite, and because that's how you feel emotionally, good or bad. And it's like, usually then you watch back a gig, you think you've smashed, and you go, oh fuck, I forgot about that bit, didn't work, and this wasn't quite as smooth as I remembered it. But then also you watch back your bad gigs, and you're like, oh, it wasn't fucking. I'm the worst fucking cunt has ever done this, and then you watch it and you go, oh no, that worked alright, and I see why that didn't work and stuff. So it's and being analytical about it is really helpful because it's such an emotive thing. It's always a binary amazing or shite, but it's usually somewhere in between.
I've got a massive amount of respect for stand-ups, and yous are all like excellent stand-ups. I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast, but genuinely, like I've said it before. I've said this to you guys before, but and you know, I think you're great.
Thanks,
I think you're like right up there. You know what I mean? And when I'm these shows that I'm doing the now, for example, where I'm playing Biscuity Boyle, it's very different from what you guys are doing because it's like what I'm doing up there is basically what I'm saying to the audience is this is the limit of how funny this character is. These are the, do you know what I mean? This is how funny this character gets. However much you laugh is how funny this character is.
Right.
Whereas yous are going up and yous are going, this is how funny I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is a different thing. It's
Yeah.
merely a high wire act, that I think, you know what I mean, than doing a character.
Have you ever done it as yourself?
No, never done it as myself.
Would
know
you?
what I mean? I don't know. I don't think so. Know what I mean? I don't think so because I think you need to be truthful. I think a wee bit. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure I'm that much. I'm not sure I want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Reveal stuff.
reveal
about yourself.
too much about myself,
Aye.
and you know, in that way. I think doing it through a character is always the way I've quite enjoyed.
Yeah.
Doing stuff where there's a wee bit of truth and a wee bit of like half the stuff I say is the Biscuity Boyle character isn't stuff I actually believe. Some of it is, you know what I mean, but no all of it. But like what it's very like it's a brave thing what you guys are doing because it's like you're putting your whole self out there, you know what I mean?
I guess it's just a harder rejection because it's like if you don't have a good set, then it's like
It's you
normally-
they don't like.
Yeah, it's you they don't like, and it's hard to distangle your personality and your entire essence for your act, really. But
Yeah.
you just got to, if you can live with that, then you can learn for the failure and get better.
Especially if it's like an embarrassing thing that's happened to you and you're like, well, at least I can get a laugh out of it. And then even if they don't laugh at it, you're like, well, I'm just embarrassment.
That's me upside.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's it, because it's one thing if I'm talking about the news or something like that and it doesn't go down to me like whatever, but if you're fucking revealing something about yourself
Aye.
and it doesn't get a laugh, then you're like, oh fuck, I
Yeah.
just told all these people about this fucking embarrassing thing.
Yeah.
And for no reason.
I
and
should
they
have
just-
kept that in. I should have kept that inside. That one.
Is it any different for you when I don't know how many gigs you did with the poetry, but you released the poetry book and I gigged with
Aye.
you. And how did that feel?
Doing the poetry was brilliant, man. It was like, well, for one thing, you're reading out of a book, right? Which is just about the best possible live gig you could do.
Aye.
The best live gig you can do is a Q&A. Without a doubt, right? See, when I see people doing Q&As, I'm like, fuck off. But reading out a poetry book, brilliant. And weirdly responsive audiences, like, because I always thought it would be a bit like, I don't know if audiences will be into this, but man, people love things rhyming. Do you know what I mean? People love things rhyming. But I really love doing these shows. I'd love to do them again at some point. You know what I mean? They're a wee, they're a wee bit harder to sell, I guess. Tickets for all sold all right, but a wee bit harder to sell because some people are just going to go poetry. Nah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get Stephen Cunts turning up to those ones.
Aye, you do. And I remember I did one in Paisley. I did one in a big tent in Paisley. It was a really good gig. And a guy after it was absolutely steaming. And he came up greeting at the end of the show. Because I'd done a poem about when you separate for a partner and you only see your Wayne half the time. All of a sudden, you're seeing your Wayne every day. And then you're only seeing your Wayne half the time. And this guy was up fucking greeting after, you know what I mean, about that. And I was like, well, this is... I would never have got that kind of thing with that guy.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a poetry thing I was doing, you know what I mean? Nobody's going to come up greeting going, what a funny Polish you did.
Is there any touching stuff in the Biscuity Boyle? Is it?
No, no really touching stuff. The idea for the show this time was I wanted to do... I'd noticed there was a kind of gap in the market for blue comedy. Kind of felt like nobody was doing like right out there blue comedy. So I thought, I'll do a proper blue comedy show that,
Is it talk about shagging and all that kind of stuff?
constant, like, constant.
That's all Mark does.
No, it's but it's like quite traditional blue comedy, kind of dressed up a wee bit. It was because when we did Uncles, right? When me and Ian were doing Uncles, and they're quite like kind of almost like long kind of shaggy dog stories kind of vibe kind of thing. But sometimes when you would say a few of the kind of ruder wee bits, you would hear a different kind of sound in the audience. You would hear like almost like a scream for woman, like, you know what I mean, like kind of kind of laugh, you know what I mean? And I remember hearing that and going, "There's, you know, I wonder if you do a show that's just
that
you were going for, you know what I mean?" So I started looking at, you know,
My
all
entire career, basically.
Blue Paisley crying. I just love that bit about shagging the arse.
so I started looking at old, like Hector Nichol and all that, and like people that were considered kind of blue comedians, and I thought you could do this. I thought with a character who, you know, was ashamed that he was doing the material. So the idea is that he's skinned, he can't put his heating on, cost of living crisis, he's reduced to this, having to do this comedy about this. So it gives me a, you know, it's just that old thing, giving you an excuse to do, you know, blue jokes.
Yeah. How blue was Hector Nichol? Because my grandpa used to always say you should watch Hector Nichol. It was very blue. It was great though. And then I watched a couple of his clips and I was like, this was blue. Was it?
This is the thing, because I remember in my house, my ma liked Hector Nichol.
Cheek and holding hands or something.
Wasn't it that blue?
Yeah.
Was it? Wasn't it?
See the stuff on YouTube. I don't think that's. I think he's toned down his act. He's when there's a camera out there.
Right.
There's a camera out there somewhere. So I think his act is toned down. But I remember my ma being really into Hector Nichol, and I remember like whether it was a tape or there was something. I remember hearing one once, and it was blue.
Was it?
Blue. So I think, you know,
The nightclub act was different to whenever they'd been in front of a camera kind of thing. Aye,
Right.
that makes sense.
I think his more mainstreamy thing was just a kind of slightly naughty,
Aye.
steaming and slightly naughty kind of
For
thing.
the
you know what I mean?
time.
Aye. Whereas I think his proper club act was like,
Was it?
yeah, quite extreme. I think, you know what I mean.
Right.
Where can I get that?
I know.
Pornhub or something.
I don't know where to find it.
I'm a massive fan of the Scots rap. I really need
Thank
to
you,
say.
man.
I really love it.
It's great.
It's just such a brilliant sitcom, and I think like what I love, I just think the characters are all dead relatable. I think it's really grounded and stuff like that, and it's like a kind of, I suppose, reality TV or scripted reality TV conceit,
Aye.
but it really just, you know, it just seems like a real family and all the types of sort of people you've got in your family and things like that. I also feel like you and Ian's characters, it seems to me like you channel a lot of your own, at least maybe personas into each character, and it comes out. And I think it's a great vehicle for that.
I think there definitely is an element of that. Ian is a sensible guy. You know what I mean? Ian's a sensible guy, and he's always been. How would I describe it? He's always been. He's quite practical, quite sensible. Even as a writer, Ian's quite like, he loves statistics. He loves going, I've checked the script, and there's 30% for that character, and there's 25% dialogue for that character. And he's very, and it's like he's a maths graduate, right, Ian? So he's got a very kind of practical, sensible thing, and I'm kind of like a bit more likely to kind of go off the rails a wee bit here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's funny, it's funny.
Aye, and I'm just, so there is definitely elements of our character in it, but also, you know, we've got lucky, we've got a really good cast.
Yeah.
So we're able to just, it's nice to be able to write something where it's like, we don't even have that many scenes together, me and Ian, really, in the whole, you know what I mean? And when we make a sitcom, we've got days off and all that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing, we get days off. It's like,
And it's because you were talking earlier on about like your family all being roofers and stuff like that, and you feeling like they kind of, because you're a writer, almost a bit more airy-fairy, and that's kind of like what your character's like in the Scots as well, because he's the cosmetic guy, and like, in the scene he's gone to the woodwork place, that Ian's character, and you're kind of like trying to be like more manly and all that, but I think that character, like, it just plays really well, and he's like, your guys get the fake tan and the fake hair and all that sort of stuff, which is like definitely an archetype of a certain type of guy.
Aye, and it's that thing, it's like, you know, the characters go the fake tan and all of that kind of stuff, and it's like, you know, ridiculous looking peacocky kind of clays and stuff. But actually, when I get in the costume, I look at myself, I go, I fucking like this, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I think that's what I recognise, because I'm like,
do you know what I
is there a bit of that? Like,
I would quite like to be this guy.
I think that's
You know
not
what I
you in
mean?
an alternate universe.
Aye. No, definitely.
When we bumped into you, I think it was at the list Hot 100 thing, and you're wearing a big fluffy jacket. I was like, that's a class jacket. Like, I bumped this for the set of the Scots.
That's a funny thing. It's like, oh, it's fucking hilarious, the kind of stuff this guy wears. It's ridiculous, and then I'm like, at the end of the shoot, can I buy that stuff? I want that jacket. I want that. You know what I mean, but there's always. I think the best comedy is always like there's an element of yourself in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's when you get the best stuff. And we've tried to kind of, once you know your cast as well, you're trying to play to the strengths of what they do. You know what I mean? And what they're like and all. You know what I mean? But we've just got so lucky with that cast, man. It's like, I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You need the cast to be right, and we've had some real, obviously like Big Jester. That was his, it's his first.
Yeah. He's great in it.
Stonor McGregor, he's
I'm singling him out, purely because he comes from a different field, wrestling, a big baddie in the wrestling, and then comes in and plays this like incredibly likable, kind of gentle. You know what I mean?
Gentle giant.
Guy, you know what I mean?
He's always taking it for all sides between you and Ian, and then his wife and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
And it's just like, just constantly taking a slagging and takes it well.
Aye.
Louise is great in it as well. Louise
Brilliant,
McCarthy.
man.
Magic.
Just brilliant. We just get just everybody. There's no a weak link in the bunch. You know what I mean? Just everybody's so great. So hopefully we get to do more.
Aye, no, I'd love to. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. And I was like really looking forward to the second series when it came out, and binged it on like a night, I think. But no, it's brilliant, man.
Cheers, man.
And we've spoke to you about this before, about you've made a horror film. Would you want to do that again? Do you go down that sort of route?
I would love to make another film. It's just, it's just trying to find. It's that thing. It's like, what it's like yourself. It's like you can't turn stuff down. You know what I mean? It's like you're so worried about what the next thing is.
Yeah.
Just an endless kind of concern about what is the next thing. That you can't really turn anything down. So like finding, when I did that, I had 6 months that I was like, I'm going to just take to do this, you know what I mean? But I kind of don't have that luxury to do that at the minute, you know what I mean? And just with the Wayne's being wee and all that, I've got quite a lot of things going on just now, so it would be difficult to do that. But I think, we're still, it's still something I want to do, and, me and Ian are a Burnistoun film, I think, not a Burnistoun film, but a couple of characters would quite like to do that. I think if we were to do something Burnistoun related again, it would be the film, you know what I mean? Once we find the right space to do that in, you know what I mean?
Can you reveal what characters you'd be thinking of, or is that?
It's Peter and Scott, the two guys that are up the flat, you know what I mean, that kind of hang about together. So the film is about them on that, set over one night in Burnistoun, so it's just set through the night in Burnistoun, where they're trying to make some money for a lassie that Peter used to go to school with. So it's just a one night adventure thing. I love the Martin Scorsese film After Hours, right? It's one of my favourite films. So I wanted to make something like that was just kind of like an adventure across the course of a night with a couple of mad characters, do you know what I mean?
Get Harold and Kumars and whatnot.
That kind of vibe, you know what I mean? But Scottish.
Aye.
That's what makes it different, you know what I mean? But it's Scottish. You know what I mean? Like everything on the BBC Facebook, kind of, you know what I mean? Imagine this, but it's Scottish.
That's great, because you've got like, it'd be, I suppose the dream thing for you would maybe be some sort of comedy thing that is also a horror, involves video games and wrestling, and then it would be like
that would be the dream. I mean,
it up.
I've never pitched a wrestling comedy show thing. I've never done that. I've never. See, it's that thing, you do get to the point you just want to do, like the sitcom, like I would do that forever, the sitcom, you know what I mean? I would do that for like series after series after series. It's something I really love doing. But you do want to try stuff that's just, just to kind of please yourself as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to get your own stuff out there. Horror stuff, aye. Horror daft, man. It's like...
Because Steve's a big...
I like a horror. Aye, what's your favourite?
My favourite horror of all time?
Aye.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I think we've asked you that before, actually.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favourite. Love Halloween. Love Evil Dead. Did not like the new one.
I've not seen it yet.
Did not like it.
The one that's just out.
Aye. Evil
I
Dead
heard
Rise.
pretty good things, no?
I didn't like it, man.
Shite.
I didn't like it.
But you've always got kind of ambitions about like putting horror into comedy
Yeah,
stuff and all
I like
that.
horror comedy. It's one of my, and even looking back at Burnistoun, there is a few, like you were saying, maybe it's series 2, but there's a few weird.
It was series 2. It was series 2, mate. Aye, there is kind of wee horror themed sketches and stuff like that. Never worked that well, but
I loved them. I think they kind of ones were my favourite.
aye, and mine I know, you know what I mean. But
Do you think it's hard to combine horror and comedy?
I don't think it is really, because I think they're really similar things. Weirdly, you know what I mean.
Aye,
Tension
it's
and
tension
release,
and then the release.
Aye,
Yeah.
and timing. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think they're very, very similar things. I think something in the horror comedy vein would be brilliant. Obviously, like the guys at the Inside Number 9 are in that kind of area a wee bit. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
With that, and I don't think like that doesn't get massive viewers or anything, but it's just like, you know, they make a quality show, and so that gets supported, which is how it should be. You know what I mean.
Aye.
You know, you shouldn't have to get the massive viewers to do it, but it would be. I think a thing we've always all spoken about, like me and Greg and Noddy for the comedy unit who directs all like me and Ian's stuff, like a horror anthology show or something. You know what I mean? Up here, BBC Scotland, you know, you could make some great stuff because we have so many
100%.
good performers and so many good writers and great crews that people all over the world use. You know what I mean? It's like you do great stuff. You know what I mean?
That's what our sketch show should be. It should be a horror sketch show. Horror
It should be.
sketch comedy.
It should be a horror sketch show.
But it's Scottish.
But it's Scottish. Crucially.
There's an idea.
But aye,
Crucially.
but Scottish.
I don't know if we want to take up too much more of your time because you've got stuff to do, places to be.
It's flown by.
It's flown by. Cheers for coming on. It's been great having you.
It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure to come on.
Do you want to plug anything?
Do I want to plug anything? Let me.
Scott's still on iPlayer, both series.
I think the Scots is still on iPlayer.
Yeah.
So you can
Highly
check
recommended.
that out. Look out at Hogmanay if you're in Scotland. Hogmanay, Queen of the New Year. It's a sketch show.
It's a great sketch show, great performances.
These guys are in it. You'll need to jump in this time.
Aye, I know. Aye.
Yeah, but-
Sorry, I had to turn it down.
Jump in this time and do a bit.
Just to want to meet the writers.
Nah, I was like, fucking keep me away from the riff-raff. You know?
We should all we'll just take it over, man. We'll start to push Greg out. No, that we'll just that's where we'll turn that into our sketch show.
Imagine a Hogmanay horror sketch show. How would that go down?
Scaring grannies.
Scaring grannies.
It's weird because see the Christmas period, they get a lot of horror stuff in the Christmas period, they do spooky stuff and all that. You know what I mean?
Well, A Christmas Carol's
But
spookiest
it's
story.
Scottish.
Of course,
Scottish Christmas Carol.
Has there ever been a Scottish Scrooge made?
I don't know.
No, but half of Scotland
Oh,
are
no,
Scrooge, you know what I mean? Come on.
Very true, very true. Boys, it's been an absolute pleasure to sit
Thanks for
amongst
coming on,
such
Rob.
execs.
Thanks a lot for doing
It's
this.
been great.
Just
And
for
you got more Biscuity Boyle shows coming up? No.
I've got 2 more work in progresses this weekend, and then I need to decide what I actually do with something, or whether I just do the work in progresses and just never do the work. Do you know what I mean?
You don't need to progress, do they?
Well, that's it.
Exactly.
Well, listen, before we go, just please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can follow us at SomewherePod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And send any questions you've got to us to somewherepod@gmail.com. But until next time, guys, speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers for
Cheers,
that,
Rob.
Rob. That was
Thanks a lot.
Beautiful, no bother.